Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, September 29th, 9 a.m. Eastern. We're doing a bit of an open house, which we do once a month, showing you what we do at the Chart Guys in terms of our normal routine, live streaming, market coverage, etc. Going to be talking a bit more about cannabis today after some news last night. We'll talk about that more in just a bit. But just making you aware that this Thursday, I'm going to be doing a webinar at 5 p.m. about longer-term patterns, and also that we have a free trial to check out our chat room. And that's on our website. A link will be posted in the chat here. But just note that if you're on the free trial, you can't speak because we can't have newbies running amok and throwing off our flow, but you can observe. All right, so we've got the broader market opening up stronger. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ both formed daily higher lows from 4-hour oversold conditions, and all-time highs are back in sight. So the burden remains on bears, just like has been the case for 5 months, and we have all-time high resistance in play to start the week. So these are the two levels I care about on the S&P 500 futures, the all-time high and then the low of Thursday. If we're going to see a 12-hour tightening range, which is a possibility, the bears would have to control the morning, and then we would look for something like that. But I'm only going to look for that if the bears control the morning, because this is a gap up on SPY and QQQ. But there's a lot of strength out there, as you can see on the hourly from the extended hours session. So burden remains on bears to prove to us something is changing. Same thing for the NASDAQ, daily EMA 12 support, and all-time highs in the picture. One thing I am watching for in the NASDAQ is we've been seeing this rotation game where one by one our major tech names get a turn, where Google was a lead bear, and then it surged to all-time highs, and Apple was a lead bear, and it surged to testing all-time highs. And I'm watching to see if Amazon's going to get a turn, because Amazon has been seeing relative weakness. And if you are watching for that, you're watching Amazon divided by QQQ. That chart is going to show us if this relative weakness is going to shift to relative strength. And the reason I'm watching for it now is because this chart is at a major support zone, where if we're going to see a shift into relative strength, this is where it would happen. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on to start this week. It's not something that I'm going to assume is happening. It's something that I'm going to watch for signs of happening and then take it from there. The dollar is starting the week red, and the metals are just absolutely ripping. We are in blue sky breakout for gold, as we have been for a while, but another bull flag confirmed, fresh highs. Silver, we had another leg up. We're approaching all-time highs here as well, maybe 5 to 6% from all-time highs at this point. We had 5-minute back burner at the end of Friday that some of us were trading, and I didn't hold that position over the weekend because I already had plenty of silver exposure, but it did end up leading to continuation. And as we know, in a strong trending market, bulls want to see back burners continuing to lead to higher highs. At this point, we're going to be on the 4-hour time frame, watching the uptrend there. And again, definitely a bit extended, but same thing as the broader market. The bears have to prove to us something is shifting. And when they do, we'll just zoom out and watch for a daily higher low to be the result of that initial consolidation. And with that, the miners are still extremely strong. They've got a big gap upcoming. And so GDX and GDXJ, daily bull flags confirmed. That gives us a new key support level for the bulls to keep their full control. And again, definitely watching for the possibility of a gap up into hourly consolidation. And that's going to be the case for, maybe cannabis, maybe some of these other things as well. But the hourly uptrend is going to be our short-term guide for the full bull control. And a name like GDX and GDXJ, we've got plenty of space for an hourly higher low to be the result of next consolidation. Crypto trying to get a bounce going to start the week. I'm watching to see if Bitcoin can form an equilibrium on the weekly chart. And it burdens on bulls here. That's one of the differences. Bitcoin has had relative weakness the last couple of weeks. And so most places in the market, the burden's on bears, but not here on Bitcoin. So what I'm watching for on Bitcoin is the 12-hour chart. And if we pull back under 114,000, I'll be watching for a potential 12-hour inverse head and shoulders to try and shape up that weekly higher low. So burden on bulls to form that weekly higher low on Bitcoin. But Ethereum had a really nice bounce, daily back burner, first oversold conditions from all-time highs, 7.5% bounce or so. And again, same thing. Bulls want to keep EMA 12 on the weekly, burdens on bulls to regain momentum, but at least a nice bounce to get a little bit of breathing room after that weakness the first half of last week. All right, so let's talk about cannabis real quick. So the news on cannabis here is last night, Trump reposts a video on Truth Social talking about the endocannabinoid system, CBD, the need for a regulated market. The video shows a news clip talking about the cost savings in states that have legalized cannabis. Just clearly everything it was a very bullish video for the sector. And, if you asked 22-year-old baby Dan, who was getting really into CBD and the endocannabinoid system back in 2010, which led to me getting into stocks, literally, that is the reason I got into stocks, my mind would be blown that the president was posting a video talking about it. So what this does is continues to increase probabilities that we are going to get rescheduling news. That said, we have no timeline. We might go another month from today forward with no more word about this. You just have to plan for everything. And I'm always going to be devil's advocate to just be sure that we're seeing all sides of things. And we do not have concrete change yet. We keep getting breadcrumbs that increase probabilities that concrete change is coming with rescheduling, but we do not have it yet. And until we have it, we're going to see, and even after we have it, we're going to see significant volatility in both directions, as we know with this sector. So if you're new to this sector, do not dive in head first. There's a lot of nuances that go along with it. These are low cap names. They don't have nearly as much liquidity as things you may be used to. But what I'm watching for, and I laid out my game plan in our chat room last night and executed part of that game plan, but I already have positions in MSOS and CRON from the initial run up that we saw. And so I'm looking to add to positions, which I did this morning a bit. And it's much easier to add to positions already in profit versus initiating new positions, obviously. But that's what I'm doing. And the most important thing for me is a number of most important things. The most important thing, many most important things, the low of Friday, well, this low, the $4 support on MSOS is now a must hold. And I will exit a good chunk of my positions if we were to fall back and break this level from here. That needs to be the longer term higher low that leads to continuation. The other thing that I'm looking for in the short term is, can bulls confirm the hourly uptrend? We know gap up opens generally, I generalize statements. Gap up opens are for selling, gap downs are for buying. It's very generalized. But what I want to see is, does big money come to play today? Or is it only our bubble of cannabis enthusiasts that are following this sector that are aware of how significant that post was? And so if it's going to be big money, we've got to see an hourly higher low set here on the morning and bulls breaking the high of pre-market, which for MSOS is 532. If that happens, that's a great start to the week. And then we look up towards a couple of resistance levels. And obviously the holy grail here is we need to get over 602 for long-term uptrend continuation. I'm not doing anything with MSOS because I already have that as my largest exposure from the initial run up. I also have CRON, and why I like CRON is because CRON is currently hitting the highest levels in 16 months, and it's over the initial pump high. And not many names can say that. It didn't run as hard on this pump, but it didn't pull back nearly as hard either. And so it's seeing long-term uptrend continuation and trying to head up towards multi-year highs. So I like how it's positioned in that regard. I don't love the volume and liquidity here. I was going to add to it pre-market, but I saw an opportunity in TLRY. I couldn't believe that 7 a.m. brokers opened and TLRY sold down here, so I snatched that up, and I bought more than I was planning to. Little proof. Control V, proof. And so I got filled. I had my initial plan of the capital I'm looking to increase my position sizes with, and I went larger just because I couldn't believe that we were trading multiple percent lower than the high of last week with this new information. It didn't make sense to me. But I grabbed a larger size here. I sold a little bit at 134. So now my break even's down at 126, 127 with my new position on TLRY, which I didn't already have. So I'm comfortable with that. I want to see bulls head up to this gap fill. 136 is a gap fill. That's looking likely to happen. And then we're looking up at 146, 150. Again, it's just for every individual name, breaking the initial pump high is the target for long-term uptrend continuation. I know a lot of people are watching CGC. This is a stock very near and dear to my heart in terms of it's my biggest gainer in my cannabis career in terms of profit from the 2018 run, but I don't like it. I don't like the dilution. I don't like the share structure. I don't like how it gave back its pump faster and harder than everything else. It's going to follow what the sector does to a certain degree, but I am focused on other things. I just don't prefer this name. And that's just my personal preference. What I am going to do with any capital that I still have that I want to add to these positions is I'm going to wait for the dust to settle a little bit, and I want to see where the lead bulls are, because what happened on the initial pump a couple months ago is, you had everything running hard together, including MSOS, but MSOS's consolidation was more significant than a lot of the higher listed names. SNDL was sideways, HITI held on much better. So I'm waiting for more information for the next chunk of capital that I have. I want to see who's the strongest names on this move up. Is the market focusing on hemp-focused names because the video is talking about hemp-derived CBD and not THC? I need more information. So I'm going to be watching how today goes and watching to add on hourly consolidation, looking for hourly higher lows if this move's going to keep going. And again, all that said, you need to anticipate the possibility that tweet from Trump is the last word that we're going to hear for the next few weeks. We know the headline can drop at any point. There's an executive order signing at 10:15. Some people are hopeful. I'm not holding my breath. You'll see it in the volume very quickly if it is related. But we could go another couple of weeks. So we could pump and have a really strong, 2 days to start this week, and then we could fade for the next 6 days. You just have to anticipate that that is a possibility. And so again, the way I approach this market is I have a core position that I will not think of selling until we get official rescheduling news. And then I have trading positions. And so, on this big surge up the last time around, taking a little bit of profit and maneuvering a bit, but definitely treating them as two different things. Core position that I'm not touching and trading positions that I will touch, and I'll even day trade. And so we're anticipating the sector is going to have a lot of volatility. So we'll keep checking in on it. But that is where I stand, and that is my approach. And we'll see how 10:15, I think it is, executive order signings go. But again, not holding my breath for that. It's going to be high volume, obviously, high volatility, TLRY. Friday total volume is 43 million, and we're currently at 20 million. We're gonna pass Friday's total volume in the first 15 minutes of trading probably. So we know it's going to be a high volume day. MSOS bulls want to capture $5 as support. Remember, $5 was a stubborn level on the way up. So we'll see. 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time. Other things that I'm keeping an eye on this week. For swing position, I'm watching Fertilizer. A little bit of a pivot here. And thanks to Red Devil for pointing this out in our chat room. But I'm looking at MSOS. I'm looking at MOS. Which had monthly EMA 12 resistance for well over a year, and now it's trying to hold the back test as support and confirm a monthly uptrend. So this would be a longer-term swing position that I'm keeping an eye on. And it also has the same 6-month long-term setup as these rare earth, lithium and rare earth, where we had a huge run 2020 to 22. We pulled back for a few years. The 6-month higher low is set. And if you look at REMX, which is the rare earth ETF, it's doing something similar. LIT, the lithium ETF, very similar. So watching for Fertilizer to potentially be very similar. And if we look at, the monthly chart for LIT straight up the last 4 months, MOS gave us a little consolidation along the way. So I'm not going to rush to an entry here first thing today. And I'm also not going to be, trading cannabis here first thing. That's why I did some pre-market positioning so I don't have to trade the rush. But anything that I do with this name, stop will be under, 29.50 as my invalidation point. But going to just keep an eye on. I only started watching it the last couple of days, so we'll keep an eye on that into the start of Q4 2025. Tesla and XBI were some lead bulls to end last week. Tesla trying to confirm the bull flag first thing. Got to break 345 or 445, and we are over it right now. So daily bull flag, gap up confirmed. Bulls got their sights set on all-time highs. A couple hurdles left here. Not many. We've got 450. There's a little gap fill at 450.102. And then the next major level is 465. But a lead bull, and XBI was a lead bull as well. XBI has been helping the psychedelic sector a bit. But again, just keep it simple. Daily EMA 12 rider, nothing changes if daily EMA 12 is support. And XBI here pre-market is trying, we're going to test that first thing, 98.07. But bulls are hoping to break that level convincingly to give us highest levels of 2025. All right, I'm going to take some ticker requests here from Chart Guys members, starting with AG, Silver Miner, right? Yep. So again, just in absolute beast mode. We're not looking to initiate positions from here, but for those already in positions, it's just walking up stops ideally. You know, we have a new daily higher low now, 1138. Bulls need to break 1267 first thing to keep this run going. We're going to test it right out of the gate. A little bit of relative weakness in that regard just because GDX, GDXJ are clearly gapping up and AG is not at the moment. But if we do get over 1267 and keep this move going, there's not a ton of major resistance next buy. The next major resistance zone is in the low 14s. But again, just sticking with the daily uptrend. Higher low, higher high. Higher low, do we get that higher high? We're aware that we're very extended. We're aware that the gold blue sky status is allowing us to continue running while being extended. But it's just something in the back of our mind that we need to be ready for, you know, weekly consolidation at any point. But there's still no sign of it at this point. So with regards to the cannabis sector, I already talked a bit about this, but do I think there's a chance of gap and go, or do we consolidate into the gap fill on the morning? There's definitely a chance for a gap and go. You know, major big money is not really doing a ton in pre-market. So that's what we need to see. When the bell rings, you know, do bulls apply the pressure, smacking the ask and pushing us up to the higher pre-market or not? And I don't know. I don't know what we will see. But I am positioned to benefit if we do and won't be too hurt if we don't. So fairly comfortable in that regard. But yeah, you know, what you want to see, if it's going to be a gap and go, you want to set the low of the day in the first, you know, few minutes of trading and then not break that level for the next hour. So we will be watching the sector fairly closely in the first 15 minutes of trading. USAR. So we're going to be testing resistance here. First thing, we've got 1908 and 1968 as the two major levels. Daily inside bar on Friday, so that's going to try and break bull first thing, and that's looking like that's happening. And then from there, oh, that was a nice weekly equilibrium, huh? I drew that sometime months ago. Bull break, no follow through, but kept the weekly higher lows going. So if you're looking at things longer term, that's what's most important. These weekly higher lows at this point. Higher low, higher low, higher low, and all-time highs in the picture here. So we got an hourly uptrend, a daily uptrend, a weekly uptrend as our guide as we're knocking on the door of resistance. Definitely worth watching. And if we do get over a new all-time high, definitely want to hold a back test of the 19s to turn that resistance wall into support. JD, we were watching to attempt to be a laggard, and it got a little laggard action to Baba, but not a ton. So daily chart is tightening up. I'm viewing this as our high, low. Let me clean this up. High, low, lower high, and we're looking for anything over 32.92 to be a daily higher low. A higher open is shaping up, so if the bulls can get over 35.03 after the bell rings, we'll have a new daily higher low at 34.18. And this is we're back testing and trying to hold this previous resistance zone. And it's been a bit choppy. We did dip well below it, but we're above it at the moment, and bulls definitely want to keep holding it. So if we do set this daily high or low at 34.18, that is a fairly important short-term level for me. And again, if we are going to see more significant rotation here, we got to see the bulls prove it. And we got to break this tightening daily range, bullish obviously, with another leg up. And one thing to be keeping an eye on is, JD divided by BABA to see if we do get rotation. Obviously, there's no sign of it. If this chart's going down, that means BABA is much stronger, but worth checking in on this chart every now and again. Baidu, JD divided by Baidu, same thing. Trying to put in a little bit of a shift here, but bulls have a ton of proving to do on JD. LAC, man, another name is going to be really volatile. We're going to be looking for a daily high or low. We did hit hourly oversold after hours Friday, which was a bit of a gift for anybody paying attention, as we bounced 20% very quickly after that. But we got short-term resistance at 649. And I'll say that the hourly downtrend is intact if 649 is resistance. We're going to test the low of Friday first thing, down at 626. Then we'll look to 6 psychological. So we're still in daily consolidation mode. And the burden's on bulls to shape up an hourly trend change. If I'm looking at this chart and I don't have a position, I want to see the bell ring. I want to see a drop down into the upper fives. I'd like to see 582 hold. And then I'd like to see bulls confirm an hourly uptrend to shape up a quick daily higher low. But that's just laying out an ideal scenario of what I want to see and then, observing the open to see if that's what shapes up. But we will be right around that low of Friday first thing. APP. Hourly uptrend strong, gap up shaping up, daily bull flag confirming. It actually already confirmed Friday with that strong close. Again, just daily EMA 12 rider. Nothing changes. Hourly's got plenty of space for a higher low on any consolidation. And I think we're blue sky here, so it's just psychological levels. 680, 690, 700, weekly stair step. So yeah, a lot of bull momentum, and it's keeping up at this point. Bears got to prove a shift. And I'd say the first sign of a shift would be losing daily EMA 12 for the first time in over a month, which isn't close to happening. If we were to gap up and then see a solid red day and close, down in the low 660s, we'd have to be cautious of a bull flag confirming with no follow through, but let's see how the morning goes. INTC, a little bit of relative weakness pre-market here. We confirmed the daily we followed through with the daily uptrend last week, but won't be surprising to see daily consolidation from here just after going straight up 20% again. And I don't know if this is because analyst came out with a hold and a $30 price target. I don't know, but we're testing the low of Friday first thing. And so if we break 34.49, which looks likely, then daily consolidation is underway. Well, we'll test it first thing. But if we break 34.49, then there's a gap at 34.25, and we'd be watching, do we head to hourly oversold conditions to scout a daily higher low? We know a daily higher low is the most likely scenario. And on any bounce, I would consider anything under 36.30 as an hourly lower high. And that's worth noting. The bears have not confirmed an hourly downtrend yet in regular trading hours. So that will be the next bit of information. When we bounce next, do we confirm the hourly downtrend to keep pulling back or not? But generally, I keep an eye for hourly oversold conditions when a strong breakout starts daily consolidation. BKKT, crypto name. Also going to be looking for a daily higher low. I don't like the volume and liquidity on this name. I've tried to trade it many times. Maybe not many times, but a few times. And it's no good compared to a bunch of other names. But a daily higher low is the most likely scenario. And if we break 1903, we are confirming the hourly uptrend first thing. So when the bell rings, I'm watching 1777 support, 1903 resistance. If that breaks, the daily higher low is set. Be aware that 1912 is a level right behind it. But if the hourly uptrend confirms, daily higher low is set, and then our sights are back watching 2089 resistance to see if the bulls can follow through. I wouldn't call this a cup and handle personally, just because I would want the right side of the cup to be closer. So you break all that resistance at once. But I'm sure a lot of people are talking about on social media how that's a cup and handle. If it's going to be, you need that huge volume to return. WBD, 5 minutes till the open. So WBD, little rising wedgie there on the 4 hour as the bull break started to lack follow through. So now we're rolling over into daily consolidation a bit more convincingly. We did hit hourly oversold pre-market. And this is a bit tricky because, again, my ideal scenario, if you're going to play an hourly back burner, is I want straight up, straight down to an hourly oversold bounce for a higher low. This is a bit tricky because we set a daily higher low. Technically, we're losing the daily uptrend on a break of 1918. So it's just not the ideal scenario. Doesn't mean an hourly oversold bounce can't work. It's just not my ideal back burner. So 1918 in play first thing. If we hold it, bulls keep their control in the short term. And if we break it, we'll then look to daily EMA 12. And I would say on any bounce, anything under 1980 is an hourly lower high, but we're going to be testing that low of Friday first thing. UTHR. Check back in on the cannabis open in just a moment. Strong daily chart. Hoping to be a bull flag. Short-term support 421.50 as our full bull control guide. Inside bar Friday. So if we break 433.57, daily higher low is set. And then we're looking to test that recent high. So first things first, all about that daily inside bar. Looks like we are at all-time highs. So if we want to keep it simple on the daily chart, just hold that level and bulls keep full control. And if not, we'll test daily EMA 12. We'll watch for hourly oversold conditions. Meta has been weaker with the TikTok headlines last week. It's a stair-step drop the last 5 days, but bulls are still strong on the weekly. Plenty of space for a weekly higher low. Higher open, but bulls have to break 752 for the daily bounce to be underway. And then we remind ourselves there's a lot of space for a daily lower high to be the result of that bounce. And the information that we want on Meta this week is, do bears confirm the daily downtrend into convincing weekly consolidation? But first things first, it's all about the stair step with that 752 resistance in play on the morning. If we don't break 752, bears keep short-term control. Open, daily lower high, anything under 1087, so got to keep an eye out for that unless we see increasing bull volume. Short-term resistance on the open is 884. If we were to drop down on the open and test 837, confirming the hourly downtrend would set the daily lower high, so we're keeping an eye on those two levels. And if we set a daily lower high, it's then all about that recent low, 691, but just treating it as a standard daily inside bar within the back of our minds, knowing, keeping an eye out on the hourly trend to see if a daily lower high is shaping up. All right, so CRON, $3 is going to be resistance out of the gate. And we've got MSOS $5 as a resistance level. And again, watching the pre-market highs on cannabis as key short-term resistance. Little bit of a pullback in SPY and QQQ as we head into the open. So again, if we drop on the morning in SPY and QQQ and bears confirm a 5-minute downtrend and control the morning, I will be watching for the possibility of that 12-hour tightening range on the futures chart to start this week. But bears got to prove it. Quantum names, I'm just watching the high of, if I wasn't trading, or if I wasn't focused on cannabis this morning, I would be watching quantum names for a short compared to highs of Friday. OKLO is going to be testing 120 key short-term resistance first thing to try and get a daily higher low set. Bring on the open. I better log into my account in case I need to do anything. So TLRY, that resistance is 143, the high of pre-market. Key test first thing. MSOS pulling back under 5. Tilray is a double top at 143. Now we're trying to break it. Need a couple penny follow through. $150 psychological is next. MSOS now over 5. Definitely want to stay above it. I'm trimming a little bit more TLRY. Again, just because I had more size than initially anticipated. So now my break even on that pre-market buy is closer to 124 or something like that. Keeping the initially intended size now. CRON is over 3, good sign. So yeah, we just want to see bulls hold these opens and not fade back and break the low of the day. And that's the lows that we just set in the first 1 minute or 90 seconds. Those are now important support levels. If I were day trading, it would be a red flag if those levels were to break from here. Again, just very short-term mindset. SPY and QQQ will be watching the high of pre-market as a short-term resistance level. XLV is the weakest major sector. Initially, XBI is not noticing as it's following through. TLRY is already well over Friday's total volume. And we are looking at 155, the high of the initial run. So that's a major resistance level that I wouldn't be surprised for bears to attempt and defend that. And again, with regards to the executive order signing, it's the kind of thing where have a market order filled out just in case. So you just have to push one button if it is the Holy Grail. But again, definitely not the most likely scenario. Individual names, Tesla over 450, so right on the verge of that gap fill, right around 451. Nice strong start. QBTS is red, so quantum bears trying to do their thing. OKLO is a double top at 120 initially. MSOS fading back at the low again. So not ideal for keeping that momentum, but diverging a bit with TLRY. TLRY is not close to its low of the day. Again, I do favor the higher listed names a bit just because of how last time around went, and we know MSOS loves to slow bleed and all the underlying mechanics. XLF, IWM pulling back a bit as well, near their lows. Apple is a lead bear. We saw that pre-market, that relative weakness. So very often, relative strength and weakness of pre-market follows through, at least to start the morning. It's definitely something worth paying attention to. Tilray back testing the high of the day as MSOS is near its low. And again, just volume, 75 million versus 35 million, very roughly speaking. I'll check some other names here in just a minute. All quantum is red. Well, all on my screen, IONQ, RGTI, QBTS, watching those lows of Friday. QBTS 2602. RGTI already broke the low of Friday. So daily lower high is officially set there. All right, quick rundown. CGC, little pop. Again, look at where we stand versus the other. I mean, we're just not close. Versus Tilray testing the high, CRON that's already way over the high. It's just not comparable. HITI also very unimpressive, but it's been very impressive bigger picture otherwise. But still in a tightening range. VFF had some buyback news. We popped up. We broke 339 first thing, but no follow through. We can view that as a double top at the moment. SNDL testing hasn't broken. Cost. So cost bearish earnings reaction to end last week. Look at this previous support zone acting as resistance. So we rejected from it on that gap down. So we got to keep an eye on that zone. Daily inside bar at the moment, but we're heading towards that low, 905. And we're just in a clear daily, weekly downtrend. And we're losing monthly EMA 12. That's a notable shift. We're losing the monthly EMA 12 rider for the first time in 2.5 years. So there is a shift going on. The shift will be solidified if bears can break 869, but there are some red flags just for some longer term consolidation. And look at the 3-month chart here. Wouldn't be surprising for the 3-month to head back towards EMA 12 after such a monster leg up. So XLF, XLV, IWM weaker. SMH and QQQ are stronger. NVDA is leading the way. Chose the right name with Tilray. It was a bit of a guess, but the reason I chose Tilray is, again, volume, liquidity, and the retail's already very familiar with this name. You know, you ask Wall Street Bets, name a cannabis company, they're going to name Tilray. But still battling resistance. Platinum. Daily stair step breakout. So 8 days in a row, higher low every day. That's a nice monthly bull. Look at that, EMA rider. Monthly bull flag confirmed. Putting in that long-term bottom. I'd say that's a solid resistance zone to keep an eye on. 1690 to 1740, just from that lower high 11 years ago. But just choose the time frame that matters to you. We got a 4-hour EMA 12 rider and a weekly EMA 12 rider. Come on, Tilray, let's get over that hurdle. Nice recovery on MSOS. Got to see a new high of the day. Otherwise, we'll just tighten up sideways for a bit, but at least we're off that low. I'm going to check in on psychedelic names real quick to see how they're responding. MNMD's the star of the show this morning. Breakout finally. Significant rotation to MNMD the last 2 days. All about that long-term top 1222, 3+ year highs. Another weekly EMA 12 rider. QQQ testing the high of pre-market. NVDA real strong. Coming up towards resistance. Daily inside bar bull break. 184.55 key level. SMH already new all-time highs. QBTS holding the low of Friday by some pennies. BMNR, this equilibrium is so good. Look at these stair steps. Higher low every single day. Break it, lower high each day. Break it, it's just so good. Anything under 64.25 is a lower high to keep tightening up, but this is going to break early October, and volatility will return, but entirely possible we keep tightening up for another week plus. All right, Tilray now next level. Going back. 157. There's a gap up at 171. That'd be a nice target. We're going to see 5-minute consolidation inevitably. Bulls want to see a 5-minute higher low and uptrend continuation if we're going to keep that momentum, but still battling around that level. Tesla not benefiting from this QQQ push up. Actually pulled back a decent bit from that initial move. Bulls are hoping for a 2-minute or a 5-minute equilibrium at this point. So QQQ at this point, we're just looking at all-time high resistance, which is 602.87. Let's check in on crypto. Nice start for Bitcoin. Hourly EMA 12. Nice leg up. 114 still the level, but bulls are giving themselves space to work with now for a 12-hour higher low, even if we do fail. NVDA knocking on the door of that resistance zone, and it's a tough one. Look at all these tops on the daily. So aggressive bears are watching for a top fish. Would definitely want to take some partial profit quickly into 5-minute consolidation and get risk-free if I were doing that, just because it's a clear lead bull. It's just a night and day difference with MSOS and Tilray. TLRY is plus 10%, 11% from the open, and MSOS is down 2%. All right, let's check in on MOS. Daily inside bar bull break. Nope, wrong name. Did break the inside bar bull, but not much going on there. I was also watching Snap for that daily higher low. That's now set. Low cap. Need to follow through. Next level is 851. INTC didn't quite get to hourly oversold. Actually, not that close at all. CRON still hovering near its low 289. XBI bulls need to hold this back test of previous resistance right around 98 if they're going to keep control. XLV not helping. I'll be watching the 4-hour XLV for the rest of the week. Can bulls recover from that big drop last week with the uptrend confirming, or do we stay as a lead bear sector? I'm assuming we're seeing some profit taking on the metal miners. Not bad. Looks like bulls bought that 5-minute oversold. Just missed it. A little front run. APP got continuation. Nice start. Wow. So QQQ is a 5-minute stair step. And we are definitely in inverse XLF and QQQ. That's how we very often start. I'd say 80% of the days we start inverse. And then the next information we get is that we don't stay inverse. So is QQQ going to weaken and join the XLF bears, or is XLF going to strengthen and join QQQ bulls is the next bit of information that we look for. MSOS bulls really want a new high of the day. Back to testing 5. MNMD holding its gains, at least initially. So again, just filling out a big fat market buy in cannabis just in case. RGTI still near its lows. Testing now, so it's actually standing out as a lead bear for the first time in a while. QBTS, much better bounce. OKLO still tightening. That'd be nice if we see a daily inside bar today for some volatility tomorrow. Crypto still strong. Looks like Ethereum's getting a little laggard move to the Bitcoin move. Yep. So we'll see if QQQ starts 5-minute consolidation right when XLF is seeing a 5-minute bounce. We've transitioned from jungle birds to chainsaw. I'm going to close some windows. QBTS back to the high of the day. Can't keep the bears down for long if the NASDAQ's going up. Can't keep the bulls down for long is what I meant. Apple's still the only major red name on my screen as far as individual names. XBI did have a nice back test and hold of that 98. Good initial response. Just the high of Friday, the high of Wednesday, and just a perfect back test. What's UNH doing? Trying to shape up a daily higher low, but just an inside bar at the moment. GRWG is another cannabis name that has broken the initial high. That's going to be our differentiator after today. Who's broken the August high and who has not? MSOS high of the day test. What's Charlotte's Web doing? I haven't looked at this chart in like 5 years. Not for me. These are the names. This is like what I was trading back in 2010 to 2014 in this sector. And I'm not going back. MSOS new high of the day. Want to follow through ideally by getting over that high of pre-market. That'd be a good sign. That's a ways away. 534. Let's at least get 5 pennies over it. I have a distinct memory of when I was certain that I'd become a millionaire because I had already had success, and my mindset was, man, I'm trading all these scam cannabis stocks. When we get some actual legitimate companies, it's going to be so much easier. Not exactly, but definitely another few opportunities since then. There we go, MSOS, a bit of follow through now. TLRY back to the high of the day test. So much volume. We're at $160 million. Well, $150 million on Tilray in 34 minutes of trading. QQQ 5-minute consolidation underway, and XLF is not getting the bounce going yet, so we can say that's a slight, well, it is, okay, I take it back. It's a weak bounce. So still no real information. They are inverse. XLV has recovered a bit from its initial weakness, but we would need a new high of the day for that to follow through. Tesla gave it back. Just a quick initial pump. So clear relative weakness over the last 30 minutes. But tons of space for an hourly high or low. Anything over the low of Friday. Bulls hoping 5-minute oversold can try and shape up that hourly high or low. I'm going to call Tilray a double top at the high of the day for now. Only broke it by a penny. NVDA is keeping its consolidation healthy. It did give enough for the bears to ideally get risk-free, or at least low risk, trimming a little bit into the 5-minute pullback, knowing the 5-minute higher low is most likely. But that resistance definitely still in play. So possible 5-minute bull flag on QQQ, possible 5-minute bear flag on XLF. Apple staying a lead bear. I guess technically MSOS confirmed that inverse head and shoulders, huh? More retracement than was ideal. So here's our shift in our inverse relationship. And again, this is like 80% of my mornings is just doing this to see which direction. And obviously it's been mostly bull recently, but we got QQQ confirming a 5-minute bull flag. And while that is taking place, I'm forgetting my hotkeys. So if we were going to stay directly inverse, this 5-minute bull flag on QQQ would be resulting in an XLF 5-minute bear flag and new low of the day. Instead, we hold the low of the day. We're at bounce highs. The inverse relationship has shifted a bit to favor bulls. And this is XLF bulls attempting to defend the low of Friday, which we're currently holding by 10 pennies. So new short-term support on QQQ is 673, and we are testing all-time highs $1 away. So the Trump executive order is supposed to be at 10:15, but they're usually later. Whoa, look at that CRON resistance. Huge wall at $3. $1.3 million shares. That's intentional to keep a lid on things. You don't put that up hoping that it gets filled. Otherwise, you do it in chunks, 20,000 shares at a time, or a big hidden order. If looking short Microsoft, I mean, really the only play into this strength would be a top fishing play with the recent highs. Otherwise, you need to wait for bulls to lose the hourly uptrend, which has been intact the last 3 days. So upper 517 to lower 519 is a resistance zone. But obviously, if the NASDAQ's going to hit all-time highs, that's going to help. So got to see the NASDAQ lose the 5-minute uptrend. XBI made it back to the high of the day. Very impressive back test. Still need to confirm a 5-minute uptrend from the low of the day, but staying a lead bull. Wow, I'm impressed with QBTS. High of Friday, 2850 coming back into play. Very quick 8% bounce. CRON is chipping away at that wall. It's not scaring bulls. 250,000 plus so far. I've been keeping an eye on some of the robot names. RR was one of them. They had dilution news, but daily high or low set. Now we're going to look for a daily lower high, anything under 571, a good bit of space for it. SERV is another one. Looks like it got that same pullback. So we can say the size of the daily consolidation of last week definitely sucked away a bunch of that momentum. And I have been watching this sector a little bit more recently just because there is a lack of price history on them and a lack of resistance. And I definitely don't think the robotics euphoria cycle has happened yet. Certainly not comparable to quantum and other things. Maybe we need some rich people to be the first to get some actual robots in their house. But definitely going to still watch. I mean, RR, once you're over 520, which we did break, there's just not a lot of resistance levels. Tilray new high. Did they stack more on CRON? No, still chipping away. Worked through over half of it though. CRON resistance, or I should say Tilray resistance. 169. Again, that gap at 171. So Tilray is currently 2% over the high of last pump. CGC needs 25% to get to the high of last pump. There will come a time for laggards, but for me, I want the concrete, actual change before going to that aggressive of a mindset. Government shutdown. The market is the betting markets are anticipating a government shutdown. So some of it would be priced in. Checking the probabilities. %72 chance. So this is a question that I can't really answer in any meaningful way. For long-term holding in MSOS, would I sell some when the rescheduling announcement comes? I have no idea what the announcement will be. What does the chart look like when the announcement comes? Have we been running for 3 weeks? Have we been consolidating for 3 weeks? What's the broader market doing? There's just so many unknowns that I can't give a good answer. I know that that's the actual announcement is when I am open to taking some profit in a core position. But I just have no idea. And just using recently as an example, everybody was asking me that the last run. If you give me the announcement here versus here, I'm going to be doing completely different things. So I just don't know. QQQ testing 5-minute support. XLV trying to creep back towards the high of the day. Tesla is seeing a decent bounce. Did we get 5-minute oversold? Not quite. Bulls still need to confirm the 5-minute uptrend if we're going to be shaping up an hourly higher low. So QQQ losing the 5-minute uptrend, which means at this point in the morning, I'm shifting to the 15-minute chart to see can the bulls form a 15-minute higher low versus the low of the day. Bears will need to confirm a 5-minute downtrend, which would be a head and shoulders if they're going to convincingly take over. IONQ back to testing the low of the day. Cron's trading a lot of volume in this range here. $2.98 to $3 is trading, just traded 2 million shares there. Average daily volume is 2 million. Getting to the end of that $3 wall, unless it's hidden. It definitely might be. They call those iceberg orders, where you can put 1 million shares behind a 50,000 share wall, but we broke it. Bulls want to get over 305. So I'm very pleased with the action so far, obviously because Tilray was my choice on the morning, but even really for everything, the fact that MSOS is over 5. Real question will be if the executive order comes back as something else, how much of this move is really aggressive bulls hoping for that. All right, before I wrap it up one more time, we got the free trial going if you want to check out the website. Live stream Thursday at 5 p.m. long-term patterns video. And I'll do a cannabis video at some point this week, maybe Thursday. Going to see music on the weekend. I'll get something done. QQQ back to a high of the day test as XLF continues its bounce. All right, appreciate you all checking us out. And I'll be back in the Chart Guys chat room here in just a few minutes. And I hope you have a good rest of your Monday. Hourly uptrends are our guides on the cannabis names. If we can hold an hourly uptrend for a few days, that'd be great. The more names that can break the high of last month, the better. Rising tide raises all ships, even if you're in a name. You know, if Fidelity's sending out alerts about other cannabis names, it's only going to help. So definitely want to see everything in the sector doing as well as possible if we're going to keep this momentum going. And again, just one more time, we need the concrete, real, tangible change. Words only go so far. And these weren't even words, it was just a reshared video. Big deal, but we need concrete. Have a good rest of your morning.